They told you the CIA was an intelligence agency. They were half right. The half they didn't tell you, the half that doesn't appear in congressional testimony, doesn't show up in FOIA requests, and doesn't get mentioned at Langley's public tours, is the part you're about to inhabit. You are not a spy. Spies gather information. You are something older, something the institution needs but will never fully acknowledge. You are the mechanism by which the agency's decisions become physical reality in the world. You are a paramilitary officer, and right now, you don't even know what that means. You're about to find out. Most people imagine the CIA as a building full of analysts staring at screens. Some of them are right, but beneath that image, beneath the career tracks and performance reviews and congressional oversight, there is an operational arm that functions by an entirely different logic. One where the rules are not guidelines, they are survival strategies. And survival, in this world, is never guaranteed. This is not about explosions. This is not about car chases. This is about what it costs, psychologically, morally, physically, to become the instrument of a nation's unacknowledged will, level by level, rank by rank. Every promotion in this world is also a burial. Let's begin at the beginning. When you still believed you chose this. Level 1, you are 26 years old, or 28, or 32. The age doesn't matter as much as what you carry, walking in a degree, probably, a background that passed a polygraph, a psych evaluation that confirmed you can compartmentalize under stress, and something else, something harder to quantify, a specific kind of ambition that doesn't announce itself at dinner parties. You are at Camp Peary, Virginia. Officially, it doesn't exist. Unofficially, everyone in the intelligence community knows it as the farm. It sits on 9,000 acres behind unmarked gates, and from the moment you arrive, the institution begins the quiet work of rebuilding you. The first thing they take is your phone, not metaphorically, literally. Training here lasts approximately 18 months for paramilitary candidates, but the timeline is almost irrelevant because what's being reshaped isn't your skill set, it's your perceptual framework. The way you read rooms, the way you categorize people, the way you assign trust. You train in small arms, not the way a soldier trains, repetitively until muscle memory replaces thought, but tactically, situationally. You learn to shoot in the context of you study tradecraft, surveillance detection routes, dead drops, elicitation techniques, the art of making someone tell you what they know without realizing they're telling you anything at all. You are being taught to think in layers. There is a course here that everyone remembers differently. It involves a simulated detention scenario, resistance to interrogation training. They won't tell you when it's coming. It comes when you're already exhausted. The point isn't to break you. The point is to show you exactly how breakable you are and to build something slightly more resilient in the space that knowledge creates. You are debriefed afterward by a psychologist. Everything goes in your file. You have no secrets here. Not yet. That comes later. At this level, your psychological state is still largely intact. You have ideals. You have a version of why you're doing this. National security, service, the abstract protection of something you believe is worth protecting. You graduate. You receive an assignment. No ceremony, no announcement. You simply disappear into the machinery. Level 2, your first posting is not where you expected. It never is. You might be in East Africa, working from a satellite station in a city that gets no tourism. You might be in Central Asia, embedded with a liaison service whose cooperation with the United States is transactional at best. You might be somewhere with a name most Americans can't locate on a map, doing something that will never be reported. What you are doing, at this level, is learning the gap between training and reality. The gap is enormous. At the farm, you practiced elicitation with instructors playing roles. Here, the man across the table from you has actually watched people die. He is not performing. You learn about cover. You are not who your documents say you are. Your professional biography, the company you work for, the projects you've managed, the conferences you've attended, is a constructed artifact. There is a weight to this that no training prepares you for. Not the operational weight, the personal weight. You are learning that deception has a cost. And that cost is paid internally. Your first operational involvement in direct action, if it comes at this level, and it may not, is almost nothing like what you imagined. The planning takes weeks. The intelligence picture is never complete. Your role is functional, specific. You execute a component of something larger whose full architecture you cannot see. Afterward, you file a report. Clinical language. Outcome-oriented, the thing that happened becomes a document. The document becomes a data point. You do not process what happened. You are not given space to process what happened. You move to the next task. Level 3. You have been doing this for 5 years, maybe 7. You have developed what the institution calls operational maturity. Reliable is the highest compliment they can offer you without also making you a threat. At this level, you are no longer executing components of operations. You are contributing to their design. You sit in planning sessions where targeting decisions are made. You have opinions about intelligence sources, their reliability, their access, their motivations, and those opinions carry weight. You now interface regularly with Special Activities Center, the part of the CIA that conducts covert paramilitary operations and activities that the U.S. government can plausibly deny involvement in. Nothing you do can be traceable back to the United States government. Your personal life at this stage has undergone a quiet reorganization. Relationships that couldn't survive the operational rhythm have ended. Friends outside the community have drifted. You have become fluent in a tongue that only exists inside the fence. A question begins to form at this level. It is not a crisis. It is more like a low-frequency signal you can't quite tune out. The question is about outcomes. Some third party, a population, a political structure, a regional balance of power, is different now because of decisions made in rooms where you sat. You carry this not as guilt exactly, but as weight. As a kind of gravitational awareness. You are no longer innocent. But you are not yet certain you are wrong. Level 4. They give you a program, not a mission, not an assignment. A program. You have been given authority. You have also been given exposure. Your program might be a sustained campaign against a specific target network, disrupting financing, degrading communication infrastructure, neutralizing key figures through means that range from influence operations to kinetic action. It might involve working with proxy forces, indigenous fighters whose loyalty you maintain through a combination of material support, strategic guidance, and the careful management of their operational autonomy. You make these determinations alone. You cannot call someone above you every time a proxy commander makes an unauthorized tactical decision. You are learning that authority is mostly the management of chaos you didn't create. At this level, you receive intelligence about yourself. Senior operational personnel in denied areas are subject to surveillance by adversarial services as a matter of course. You are now operating in a hall of mirrors, performing authenticity for an audience that is performing skepticism back at you. The paranoia at this level is not irrational, it is professional. Something happens to your decision-making here that you will only recognize much later. The moral architecture becomes faster, more automatic. You stop experiencing decisions as decisions and start experiencing them as assessments. You have optimized yourself. The question you cannot answer is what exactly you have optimized for. Level 5. You run a station. Now, a station is the CIA's operational headquarters in a foreign country. You are, in effect, the most powerful American official in that country, who no one outside a very small circle knows exists. The ambassador knows, and that relationship is its own education. You are briefing the country's intelligence chief twice a month. This person may or may not be reliable. Your read of their reliability is one of your primary intelligence products. You are constantly watching the watcher, assessing whether the relationship is producing genuine cooperation or sophisticated management. A specific kind of loneliness exists at chief of station level. Not social loneliness, operational loneliness. You possess a view of the world that no one above you shares because no one above you has lived inside it the way you have. When you brief headquarters, you are translating a three-dimensional reality into two-dimensional language for people operating from strategic distance. They make decisions based on your translations. You are shaping the decisions of people who believe they are making their own decisions. The psychological cost at this level is not burnout in the conventional sense. It is the experience of living at permanent altitude. All of them are managing the same thing, the recognition that they are responsible for consequences they cannot fully predict or control. Level 6. You are back inside. After years in the field, you now sit inside Langley, in a position that most people at your previous levels couldn't see from where they stood. You are the person the chiefs of station brief. You are the translation layer you once resented. From this altitude, you see patterns that individual station chiefs cannot. You see how operations in one country create downstream effects in another. You see the institutional gravity that keeps certain programs running, not because they are producing results, but because the infrastructure built around them has developed its own momentum. You make termination decisions. You decide when a program has outlived its utility or become a liability. You don't end programs cleanly. There is no such thing. You manage the decay of programs. That is the accurate description. At this level, your calendar contains meetings that are not in the institutional calendar system. Conversations with counterparts from allied services, British, Israeli, Jordanian, French, that happen in locations chosen for their operational security rather than their convenience. You stop having opinions about what you do. Not because you have stopped thinking about it, but because opinions are a luxury of people who can act on them. You have filed it somewhere. You know where it is. You don't visit it often. Level 7. They don't call this a paramilitary rank. At this level, the titles become institutional. Deputy Director for Operations. You are no longer in the chain of command. You are the chain. A presidential finding is the legal instrument that authorizes covert action. It must be signed by the president. You have been in those briefings. You know which senators ask questions and which senators have decided, for reasons of their own, that they would prefer not to know more than they currently know. The institution continues. Administrations are whether. You provide the truth, technically, always. The selection and framing of that truth is the exercise of institutional power that your predecessors exercised before. You and your successors will exercise after you. You know things that cannot leave the room. You have stopped thinking about what happens when you leave. That information doesn't leave with you. It stays in the system. You are, in the end, a temporary custodian of permanent secrets. The secrets will outlive you. The institution will outlive all of you. What does power feel like at this level? It feels like responsibility with no exit. Every decision you participate in is load-bearing. The operations you authorize are not theoretical. People will move based on your authorization. Some of those people will die. You have learned not to think in terms of individuals. You think in terms of outcomes, population level effects, regional stability metrics, threat reduction probabilities. This is the only way the math works. This is also what it looks like from the outside when someone has lost their humanity. You are aware of this. You are not sure it's accurate. You are not sure it isn't. Final level, they retire you. Or you retire yourself. The distinction matters less than you expected it to. You receive a ceremony. Small, classified. Someone says something genuine about service. The badge is taken back. You are, for the first time in 30 years, a private citizen. The transition is not what people imagine it is. It's not that you missed the operations. But mostly what's disorienting is the removal of the framework. For 3 decades, every decision you made existed inside a structure that gave the decision meaning and context. Choosing a restaurant feels trivial. Calling your adult child feels impossibly important. The calibration is off. Some people at your level write memoirs. The memoirs go through pre-publication review by the CIA's Publication Review Board. Every story about the agency, including this one, is a managed document. You think about the things you can't write. At the end of that chain of explanation is a picture of how the world actually operates, that most people are not equipped to receive without it permanently altering their relationship with the governments that claim to represent them. This is not a conspiracy. It is the structure of power. You are not a villain in a movie. You are an institution. The younger officers who call you ask variations of the same question. Was it worth it? You have a version of an answer. It involves the honest acknowledgement that you cannot know, that the counterfactual world in which you didn't do what you did is inaccessible, and therefore the calculation of whether the doing was worth it is permanently incomplete. Satisfying answers are for people who need the story to close. The story doesn't close. It continues in the people you trained, the programs you built, the relationships you established. You built something. You cannot see it anymore. It has grown past your line of sight. This is the nature of institutions. You were never the point. You were always the instrument. Conclusion. Here is what nobody tells you when you start. The rank structure you just moved through is not a ladder. It is a funnel. At the bottom, there are many people who want to do this work. At the top, there are very few people who have survived doing it, not physically, but in the deeper sense of surviving the accumulation of knowledge, responsibility, and moral complexity without either breaking or becoming something they wouldn't have recognized in themselves at the beginning. The system selects for people who can hold contradictions without resolving them, who can authorize violence in service of stability, who can lie professionally without losing the capacity for personal truth, who can be simultaneously patriotic and clear-eyed about the distance between what nations claim to be and what they are willing to do. The system selects, in other words, for a very particular kind of human being. And then it uses that human being. And then it retires that human being. And then it selects another one. You were not special, you were suitable. The distinction is the most important thing you will take out of this career. The intelligence community will continue. The Special Activities Center will continue. The programs will continue under new names, with new personnel, incorporating new technologies, adapting to new geopolitical conditions, serving new administrations with old objectives stressed in new language. The mission persists. The people who execute it are temporary. The work continues. The accounting is deferred. The reckoning, if it comes, will come for people who weren't there. That's the system. You served it, you were part of it. And somewhere, right now, someone 26 years old is arriving at a gate that officially doesn't exist, handing over their phone and beginning the process of becoming what you became. They don't know yet what it costs. You do.